She also appeared on Howard Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, "I'm not a wall, but I am plastered." New York Times opinion piece says we should abandon the idea of masculinity. "I'm way ahead of you," said one man.
Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld just teamed up for the unthinkably obligatory Howard Stern's ego in a takedown so vicious it echoed through the airwaves and late-night stages alike. What began as a sprinkle of shade morphed into a verbal wrecking ball, slicing through Stern's finely manicured persona like a hot knife through vintage vinyl. No filters, no pity, just two cultural titans laying bare the so-called king of shock jock radio, exposing him as a hollow throwback clinging to relevance in a world that's already moved on.
I thank God for Howard Stern because he does make me feel normal by comparison. Because I'm like the Fox recluse. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. But he makes me look like, Pete Davidson on a...
Yeah, he's a germaphobe. Like, his wife rescues cats. That's her job, apparently, her thing. But you can get toxoplasmosis.
That's true.
Cryptosporidiosis.
AIDS.
And
no, you can't.
No,
but
you can't get. But you can get.
I mean, what are the chances I get that again?
Because he had the affair with Jessica Hahn,
right,
who was the secretary, the hot secretary, and Jessica Hahn wound up Sam Kinison, and they had.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
They had a terrible breakup. They would talk shit about each other on Howard Stern.
What do you think of what Howard's become recently?
Well,
he's the only person I know who's gone, other than Penn maybe, who's gone from being red pill to blue pill.
This wasn't just a takedown, it was a spectacle. A Category 5 ego storm aimed directly at the last surviving follicles of Stern's heavily managed head. If Howard still thought he was the king of edgy radio, Joe and Greg just shoved a mirror in his face and whispered, "Look again, your majesty. That crown's plastic. That throne, long repoed." It all started with a slow burn. Rogan, that effortlessly alpha podcast behemoth who can jump from quantum physics to elk hunting in a single breath, had clearly had enough of Stern's latest moral lecture circuit.
Stern can call snacking with celebs at a fancy restaurant exhausting. Exhausting. Like he finished the overnight shift in a coal mine, or hearing Kat talk about her pets.
Fair.
But I get it, life is tough, especially when you've been cut off from the world for 2 years in a $20 million beach house. I mean, you have no idea how tiring it is walking all the way from the wine cellar to the tennis court and back. Do I sound jealous? Yes.
Look, what he did, I mean, look, people to this day, they make fun of Howard Stern because of who he is now and the way he behaves now. That guy, the man, he was the pioneer. When he was the king of all media and he was telling everybody to suck his dick and the FCC was going after him, the government was fining him.
Yeah.
They were fining his businesses millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And he was out there doing wild shit on the radio.
He was putting a Klansman on with Young Thug or
And
not
now-
Young.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Back to Stern. Howard's been moonlighting as some kind of moral compass lately because, nothing screams trust me like a guy who's spent decades asking celebrities if they wax. Rogan didn't hold back. That signature smirk, that tone that screams, "I bench truth for Repsh, let it rip." No need to raise his voice. Just calmly dismantled Stern's freshly polished halo like it was a $12 squat rack from Walmart. The same guy who once boasted about naked strippers on air now finger wags like a yoga mom at a juice bar. The irony thick enough to sear steak on.
That time, and then he went woke. And since he's gone woke, his ratings have gone down the tubes, and he sort of went anti-Trump for a couple of reasons.
They sued him. His parent company had to pay untold amounts of money. How much money did Howard Stern's company get fined? It was hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Insane amounts of money. The government was trying to shut down a radio guy for talking shit.
He was very angry at MAGA. He said, "We've got to stop MAGA." And I'm saying, it's Make America Great Again. It sort of doesn't work so well.
And now that's the left. It's just patterns, man. It's just patterns where people can justify certain behaviors because of
Howard Stern telling people how to live. Rogan muttered like it physically hurt to say. That's like Ozzy Osbourne giving TED Talks on pronunciation. Boom, the illusion of Stern 2.0 began to fall apart, not from cruelty, but from cold, cutting accuracy. Rogan wasn't launching an attack, he was peeling off a disguise. Now Stern wants gravitas after 3 decades of fart boards and breast countdowns. Please.
Klansman on with Young Thug or
and
not
now,
Young Thug.
and now he's woke.
Miami.
Crazy.
Trick Daddy?
Trick Daddy.
Yeah, he has to be, though, because if, dude, the skeletons, that guy.
Yeah, look at this.
God hates.
Oh, and she
No, there's
escaped.
also Hollywood Squares, but yes.
Okay.
They used to bring them back all the time.
And just when you thought the burn couldn't go deeper, in strutted Greg Gutfeld, grinning caffeinated and ready to turn the wreckage into a late-night set. No tiptoeing here. Gutfeld kicked the door off its hinges and tap shoes, wielding the precision of a comic who moonlights as a hitman. He painted Stern as a washed-up rocker who swapped leather pants for knit cardigans. The imagery flawless. Stern's that relative who watched one climate doc and won't shut up at Thanksgiving. Gutfeld barely concealed his glee as the roast continued. He said Stern's transformation was like watching a wolf slowly turn into a poodle inferno. Bite, and instead of howling at the moon, he's now scolding it for cultural insensitivity. The crowd, in tears, not just from lauder relief. Finally someone said it. The rebel voice of a generation, now just a sad cover band of himself, rewriting history with a Sharpie and a desperate prayer. Rogan still twisting the knife with that philosopher-Barbian energy.
Career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, you know, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last, but they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's living in the Hamptons. What would the Stern of now think of the Stern of...
Rogan walked the audience through Stern's evolutionary regression. From anti-censorship warrior to censorship incarnate. From bird-flipping outlaw to oat milk-sipping corporate mascot. He's gone from giving the finger to begging for internships. Rogan said, eyebrow raised. Meanwhile, Gutfeld danced across the wreckage like it was Times Square at midnight. Stern's guest list now curated for social approval, not interest. It's like a punk rocker traded his guitar for a book club, Gutfeld sneered. The only thing shocking left about Stern is how boring he's become. And it hurt because under the fire and punchlines was a truth Stern couldn't dodge. He didn't. Mature, he softened, not in a wise elder way, but in a replace the fireworks with bubble wrap kind of way.
Woke. Listen.
If woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, well, dude, call me woke as you want. I'm not for stupidity, but I am woke, motherfucker, and I love it.
Oh dear, he swore. He swore that'll win over the woke.
The contradictions, stacked like a Jenga tower. Rogan broke down the timeline clinical precise. One day Stern's grilling Pamela Anderson about implants. The next he's lecturing Rogan on platform responsibility, the whiplash unreal, like watching Evel Knievel turn into a crossing guard, and just when Stern's fans hoped for a lifeline. Gutfeld came back for the encore. Stern's an aging magician pulling politically correct rabbits out of a hat no one asked for. He said, used to be danger in his act, no, it's balloon animals and safe spaces. The place erupted. But the roast wasn't cruel, it was necessary. A comedic exorcism dragging out the ghost of Stern's past. While his new self wilted under the lights, Rogan even teased a comeback. All Stern needs is a fart button and a lost stripper pole, he joked. Gutfeld, a daddy'll lend him a spine if he ever wants to fight power again.
Maya Rudolph playing you. I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate.
Then came the mic drop. Rogan leaned in and said, "Whore doesn't fight the system anymore, you sends it holiday cards." The room exploded, Stern fans silent. That silence said more than any laugh ever could. This wasn't just comedy, it was a reckoning. Rogan and Gutfeld resurrected the old Stern, if only to sit him next to his neutered double. It wasn't cruel, it was cathartic, because people missed that Stern button pusher, the truthler. The guy who dared. By the end, the crowd wasn't just laughing, they were nodding. Because in a world of virtue-washed talking heads, there's something revolutionary about two guys finally saying what everyone else is afraid to. Howard Stern got roasted, yes, but more than that, he got revealed.
Woke, it's if you call someone a know-it-all, you're not complimenting them on the breadth of their knowledge. Yeah. You're saying you don't know as much as you think you know. So yeah, woke doesn't have anything to do with vaccines. What it really means is sort of a slavish devotion to left-wing ideology and then repeating it so you can get social credit.
Right.
That's really what it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're smarter than anybody. And he had said in another part of this set, because I believe in the science. Well, if you believed in the science, you wouldn't be hiding out like Howard.
Now Stern's got to poths embrace the neutered persona he sculpted. Or take the hit and find that old spark against the edge he buried under honest invites and polished interviews. But make no mistake, Joe and Greg didn't just slam Sterney. Reminded the world why he needed to be slammed, and just as the dust settled, Rogan leaned in, deadpan as ever, and asked the question that shattered it all. Do you even like yourself anymore? Howard boom, no jab, no punch, an existential haymaker. You could hear the silence of a million boomers suddenly unsure who they were cheering for all. These years, Gutfeld, never one to let a raw nerve go untouched, pounced. Howard used to be radio's mad scientist. He said, now he's the substitute teacher handing out detention slips for saying the word crazy. Brutal, surgical, poetic, if your poetry comes with a laugh track and Red Bull.
14 years. 14 years.
And that's not paid by the station, that's paid by him.
Find owners of radio station licenses that carried the Howard Stern show. A total of $2.5 million for content and considered to be indecent. Indecent. Like, why do you have those rules? Like, why do those rules exist? To keep obscenity from television and like, maybe that was a good idea in 1950 when people.
But they weren't just clowning a man, they were dissecting a cultural collapse. Howard Stern wasn't just a celebrity, he was a middle finger in human form. Now that finger points politely, he traded shock for safety, edge for Ellen, Rogan hit back with the kill metaphor. It's like watching the Joker work at a mall. The laughter came, but under ITA side, because whether you loved him or loathed him, Stern meant something. Now he just mirrors whatever's trending and avoids anything that might cost him a brunch invite. Gutfeld ran through everything Stern once mocked: Hollywood phoniness, political fakeness, clout-chasing fame addicts. And no was all of them combined, Greg said. You could almost hear Stern's old soundboard try to reboot in shame.
They still call it Sirius XM?
Still Sirius XM, and I've heard that it's Howard's money.
Yeah, but he has so much. Well, first of all, if he leaves, they're
oh yeah.
Because that's like, how many subscribers will bail when that guy leaves?
Dude, I did Howard Stern show 3 months ago, and I thought he wasn't in the room, but the way they have that set up is you really believe he's in the room, like almost like a hologram.
They tricked you.
Dude, I was talking to Howard Stern, but he was in Long Island or wherever he was, Florida, and I was in
Rogan and Gutfeld weren't just mocking, they were daring him. Every insult, every jab, every metaphor came with a whispered challenge: come back, be dangerous, say something real. Because what they mourned wasn't the man, it was the voice. The one that used to speak unfiltered, raw, and fearless. The voice that didn't care about backlash or brand deals or IG therapist approval. That voice buried under PR layers and Pinterest polished messaging. Gutfeld leaned back, smirk dialed to 11. Stern didn't evolve, he said. He got neuter ed, be fame, fear, and the same machine he once tore down. And Rogan, he gave the eulogy, calm, clear, melancholic. You can't call yourself the king of anything, he said, when the only thing you challenge now is your assistant's latte order. Laughter followed, but not the kind you shrug off, the kind you feel, a legacy packed in storage. Then Rogan painted the final Stern, alone in his mansion, surrounded by Yasmin and meaningless art, replaying old tapes where he actually believed what he said. That's the ghost that haunts him, not regret, but relevance. And yet beneath it all, you could sense that Rogan and Gutfeld weren't rooting for his fall, they were begging for his return. Because they remember who Howard Stern was, and they still believe he maybe could be that again.